Oh dear, the Canadian chef that enraged vegans. Until December 2017, Antler Kitchen and Bar had been just one of many small restaurants on the busy streets of Toronto. Everything changed due to a seemingly innocent chalkboard sign put out in front of the bar by its owner and chef, Michael Hunter. The sign teasingly said, "Venison is the new kale," and, as Hunter points out, it was meant to be simply funny. Despite the intentions, and much to his surprise, it quickly went viral and caused numerous protests organized by local animal rights activists. However, it was not the protests, but Hunter's provocative reaction to them that drew the attention of international media and made the restaurant unexpectedly famous. The first demonstration outside Antler occurred after one of the protesters saw the sign when riding a bike by the restaurant. As it turned out, the man was vegan and found the slogan extremely offensive. A few days later, joined by others who thought the same, he came back and demanded that the owner should get rid of it. Hunter refused to do so. Instead, he decided to do quite the opposite. In an attempt to defend himself and his customers, he went out, butchered a leg of a deer in front of the angered crowd, and shortly afterward, publicly ate a self-prepared steak of the same animal. While he was hoping that such a radical act would make the protesters go away, it only escalated the conflict and made several headlines, both in and outside the country. Surprisingly, this didn't really harm the business. Since the incident, Antler has been getting more reservations than ever before. Nevertheless, the protests continued weekly and were becoming increasingly aggressive over time. As stated in multiple media accounts, the vegan activists would shout at Michael Hunter, call the guests of his restaurant murderers, and bring their own signs with various slogans on them, including "Take death off the dinner table" and "Your food had a face," and even get into fights with Mr. Hunter's supporters. However, Marnie Ugar, the organizer of the first protest, insists that these reports are not entirely accurate. She claims that protesters were indeed not as angry and violent as many journalists described them. Furthermore, she says that the reason why she decided to initiate the demonstrations was to create a space for dialogue between vegans and meat eaters. Her original goal was to have a peaceful conversation with Antler's owner and persuade him to remove certain meat-based dishes from the menu. Later, she also gave him an ultimatum. The protests would stop if he displayed a pro-vegan sign in the restaurant's window. The Canadian chef refused to fulfill either of her wishes. In an interview with popular podcast host Joe Rogan, he admitted that he was frustrated by the protesters' ignorance and unwillingness to accept a point of view that was different from their own. Mr. Hunter is a firm believer in ethical farming. He must ensure that the meat he uses in his restaurant is provided by local farmers who take excellent care of their animals. Moreover, as a hunter himself, he thinks that if more meat eaters knew how to kill an animal, they would actually consume and waste far less meat. On the other hand, animal rights activists believe that there is no such concept as sustainable farming, and therefore eating meat simply equals murder. But does that explain why they targeted Antler instead of, for example, the butcher's shop on the other side of the street? That question will probably remain unanswered. While the fact that one simple slogan caused so much controversy may seem bizarre, perhaps it is beneficial that it also gave rise to a public debate on a number of significant subjects, such as diet, hunting, ethical farming, and morality.